Fall can bring some pretty cool things. Pumpkin spice cold brew, the apple orchard, hooded sweatshirts. But it also means kids back in school, crazy sports practice schedules, and to-do lists longer than a corn maze. But that doesn't mean you need to stop taking care of you as a parent. Trust me. How can parents still find the time to take care of our own health during this incredibly busy season swap? Today, we're going to chat. So grab your headphones and a latte or something stronger, like a cold brew, more caffeine, and let's dive in. Hi, I'm Jenna, and I'm always rambling. Just ask my husband. I have a great family and a pretty cool life, but I'm a recovered alcoholic. That's hard to say, but my goal is to inspire and educate to help others hopefully find life beyond an addiction. I'm all things: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Getting healthy, momming, and politics. Get offended easily? You better stop listening. There is no point in wasting that Botox by stressing yourself out listening to a podcast. Welcome to Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Today's episode is brought to you by products and services I'm thoroughly addicted to. Hey, are you a dedicated listener of Ramblings of an Addict? Then this is a space you absolutely need to join me in. Grit and Grace Rambling Collective. This is a community designed specifically for fans of the podcast. We understand your passion for personal growth, empowerment, and faith in Jesus, and we are here to really help you up-level that. Join the collective of like-minded women who are ready to dive deeper into topics discussed on this show, from personal transformation to engaging with societal issues, taking care of your health. We provide all the support, coaching, and guidance that you're going to need to really make that positive impact. Together, let's continue the conversation, share insights, and inspire each other to live a life filled with grit, grace, and a whole lot of love. Do not miss the opportunity to connect with fellow listeners, amplify your journey of growth, and be part of a community that truly values the power of personal and collective well-being. Join the Grit and Grace Rambling Collective today, and let's create a space where we can thrive together. Check gritgraceglow.com for more information, and you can also easily join by clicking on the show notes below. Hey, fellow ramblers. I hope you're having a fabulous week. It is totally starting to feel like fall. More days this week on the chillier side of things up here in Minnesota. And as much as I hate to admit it, the season swap is definitely coming. With that being said, today's episode is definitely going to be a good one for your fellow mom friends, your fellow parents that are going through this season swap of trying to get back on track with going back to school. The kids are in tons of different routines. You're in a ton of new routine pieces. So make sure you're sharing this episode with any of those friends that are going to benefit from these tips. Also, make sure if you have not yet followed the podcast or subscribed, make sure to do that. That way, honestly, it's just one less thing on your plate. It automatically downloads. You don't have to think about it. And you just pop into your podcast listening app, and there it is for you to tune into. All right, as we dive in today. So, as I mentioned, fall is a crazy time of year for a lot of people. If you are like our house, no lie, right? We still have a busy summer, but it's just less routine. There's not as many blocks, I guess, of time that repeat time and time again. School, day after day after day, sports practices, clubs, all that kind of stuff. Even for us in a homeschool house, right? for us, this transition back into the school year, it was like, oh my Lana, like, okay, we are back at it. We got to make sure we're carving out time for school. We have the girls in different, I guess, add-ons as well. Clubs, co-ops, that kind of stuff. And it's routine. It's every single week. Sports, a lot of fall sports kicked off those same couple of weeks that school kicked off. A lot of clubs, you take the summer off, like our kids' church club, for example, the women's Bible studies, all that kind of stuff. You take summer off, which, hey, if you're from Minnesota, you feel me, because we only get like 3 months of beautiful weather. Let's kind of cut as much out of those schedule blocks as we can so we can enjoy it, right? But as we come back into the winter, the routine is coming back. It's nice to have those routine pieces, but that also means all of a sudden you're like, whew, life is crazy. And when that happens, I know from experience, as a person, as a mom, I know from personal experience, but also as a board certified coach that has been health coaching for, oh my goodness, 12, 13 years at this point. Every time I say that, I'm like, oh, how is this happening? How are the years continuing to tick on? But we're talking over a decade now. I've seen it. This time of year for my clients is always difficult. All of a sudden, oh no, Coach Jenna, I forgot to work out, or Coach Jenna, I have not had time to food prep, or I haven't even had time to make a meal, so we've been hitting the drive-thrus all the time. Sleep, what is that? I haven't been doing that. Self-care for parents goes out the window. But let me stop you. Before you're like, oh, this girl gets me. She knows what I'm talking about. She's going to write me a pass. Let me stop you. Because I have heard it all. Because like I said, I've been in this industry for a long time. So yeah, absolutely. This time of year, I get it. It's hard. There's points of the year that there's always excuses, right? Okay, let's fast forward 2 months. End of the year. So you have people in different industries that are like, oh my goodness, we have so many objectives or goals or financial pieces that we have to wrap up before the end of the year. I don't have any spare time. Or same time of year. Hello, holiday season. Can we just get real about that? Like, we all know holiday season is nuts. You have Christmas parties at work and at church and with family and with friends and for your kids. It's nuts, okay? Fast forward a few more months. Springtime. Oh, Coach Jenna, I do not have time for anything right now other than getting my kids through the end of the school year and, setting up our vacations or setting up our summer schedule, setting up daycare for the kids. Spring is crazy. Okay? And then it's summer. Hello, I just said it. Especially for us Midwest folks, we get it. We only have 3 months of it. Oh, Coach, I will get back to working out and eating right after the summer. Right now, it's all about being outside, enjoying the weather, hitting the barbecues, being with my family. So, in theory, I just kind of smashed through that, right? Excuses that fit all 4 seasons. So no matter what time of the year it is, you can very easily grab excuses that I have heard a million times, that you have heard your peers say, and it gives you a little bit more peace being able to say that, because you're like, see, they feel the same way. They get it. But let me tell you, we need to push through. Especially if we are parents. Because let me stand in my soapbox here for a second, right? Number 1, you want to be able to be an active parent and be healthy and be able to keep up with them, no matter what their age. Okay, let's say you have older kids. Okay, what about when you become grandma or grandpa, right? Like, you want to be able to keep up with your grandkids, right? I love being able to watch our nanas and our papas and our grandma and our grandpa be able to keep up with my kid. She's 3 years old, and she wants her nanas and her papas and her grandma and her grandpa to be able to play with her and to keep up. And she doesn't really have the mental ability to understand if they can't, because their health is not at a great point, right? And no shame in that game if that's happened, because there's going to be great parents and great grandma and grandpas that health just sometimes takes its own route. God had a path or a reason. It is what it is. But let me tell you, if it's because we neglected to take care of ourselves, that sucks. That just flipping sucks. In addition to that, right, your kids are watching you. What you are doing for you, they are seeing as normal and natural. And more than likely, right, the hope is they're going to follow your footsteps when it comes to taking care of themselves. So, let's dive in. Today we're going to talk about just a few tips here about how you can, even during this crazy time of year, better care for you. So let's hit the nail on the head, right? The big deal for most people right now is a crazy overloaded schedule. All of a sudden, now you have your kids at school or you're homeschooling or whatever it may be, right? School takes up a huge chunk of time. Add on to that if they're in sports or their clubs have picked back up, or now you have additional extracurricular activities. What I've come to find is that you need to be able to look at your schedule and say, okay, what can I, or even what do I have to cut? What do I have to limit? Sometimes this is hard. Sometimes these are things like, oh my goodness, this sucks. I really enjoy this, or I really like this. Sometimes it's things like, oh, you know what? This just needs to go. It's been there. It's a piece of our life, but I don't necessarily love it. Okay? Whatever it may be, you need to make those decisions. I can tell you, for example, I cut one this year that I had added into our routines last year. I loved it. I partook in a women's Bible study every Tuesday in the morning, and I loved it because it was at our church. I was with all, only women of all ages, so I had a nice blend. I was getting almost like mentorship from some of these elder women in our church, and then they also had daycare during this, so I could bring McKenna. She got to play with other kids, which I loved because it was peers from church. But this year, looking at our calendar, I was just like, ugh, I'll have to duck out early because McKenna has swimming lessons that would partially overlap. It's having to get up early, again throughout the week, in addition to a couple other things that we have. And it just felt right now. I'm already doing mentorship with somebody from church. We have plenty of other events that are happening at church throughout the week. It sucked. But you know what? I'm going to continue to read the Bible with my family. I'm going to continue to listen to my Bible app. I decided to make that choice that right now, it's not the season for this. It could come back. 1,000% it could come back. But right now, where we are at in life, it just did not make sense. And it sucked to make that cut. But it was necessary for sanity of family. And honestly, sanity of mommy. Okay? So you need to make sometimes those hard decisions of what doesn't make the cut this year. With this season change, what is not going to fit the calendar? Okay? Second thing, think about carpools. So this one, I see families rock this out. I was just talking with a homeschool family at the co-op yesterday, and they were talking about, how they work the carpool system for their house. This mom has got it down. Like, total mom envy over here for a second. Carpools don't necessarily work for our house right now because our kids actually aren't going to a lot of the same events as other kids that we aren't going to. So it just doesn't work. There's been situations for Hales that, until she gets her license, that we're like, okay, hey, yes, if you want to do that, totally cool. We will get you there one way, but she's big enough now, right, that she can figure it out. So we're like, okay, but you need to figure out your way back, whether you reach out to a friend that drives or if there's somebody there that their mom can bring you home. Sometimes we do carpool situation that way. For the little one, it's also a little harder because car seats, right? Ones that just plop their butt into a seat, it's a lot easier than trying to figure out, and how am I going to get you my car seat and make sure that it's attached in your vehicle easy, right? Or, rather, easily. So, let me tell you, carpool, not 100% the Dix family jam yet. I have a feeling we'll get there eventually, but for families that do have this capability, I am watching this play out in other families so smoothly, and it's literally, I guarantee you, game-changing for some of those families. My third one. All right, so you have a crazy busy schedule, and you're like, when do I find my time? Sorry to say it, and I'm sorry to say it to myself because I hate this. We need to wake ourselves up earlier, okay? I'm not saying ass crack of dawn early, but for those of us that, my hand is way in the air here, for those of us that really, really, really like to sleep in, we might need to scale that back a little bit, okay? Or go to bed a little bit later, whatever works for your house, okay? Typically, it is, the flip side of that. You get up a little bit earlier. If you're like our house, who has a kid that just, if mom and dad are awake, she likes to be awake. They talk about FOMO, okay? We usually have to pick up pieces on both ends of that just because we know they aren't going to be super long on either one. So, you need to find the blend that works for your house, but just know it might push your waking hours one way or the other, or possibly even both. And we need to be okay with that, in the season of life we're in, but also in this season swap. All right, so once you have looked at your schedule and you're finding some tricks, I guess, that are going to help you with a little bit better balance, the next step is, okay, how am I going to balance out my nutrition? Because, number one, we all know it. Eating healthy is key, right? They all say abs aren't made in the kitchen. That's like the biggest thing that I used to hear back in the day when I was more focused on the fitness side of coaching. What you eat freaking matters. But let's go back to what time of year we're talking about. We're talking about the fall, which for anyone that works with kids, right? Or you've had a kid, go to school. This season is sick season. Whether it's colds, flu, we're hearing that the vid is coming back. Right now is when germs are picked up like crazy because people are getting back into spaces together. Clubs, school, sports. So you need to make sure you're eating right because you want to make sure you're getting the vitamins and the nutrients your body needs. Let's go like bottom of the barrel, basic thought, right? And we all know this, but it's that reminder that as a coach, I'm going to always preach until the day I'm laying in my casket. Food is the original medicine. And we need to remember this too for our kids as the season swap is coming into play. Okay? So is eating healthy going to be our favorite thing and super easy all the time? No. But the rudimentary reason you want to be giving your body the healthy things it needs to function. All right, let's break this up a little bit. So as we come into the fall and our lives get busy, it's easy to be like, oh, I'm just hitting the drive-thru. And then we think in the back of our head. And it's okay because hoodie season is here. So as I throw on this big comfy sweatshirt, no one's going to even know that I've laid off the sit-ups and the salads and I've hit the McDonald's drive-thru a lot. Okay? Let's be real. And let me remind you that time flies, and every year as we're aging, it flies a little bit faster. Swimsuit season will be here before you realize it. Okay? So beyond that, I guess, vanity reason, and that reason of, I need the vitamins, I need the nutrients. Okay, I hear you. Great reasons, Jenna. What the heck am I supposed to do about this then? Okay, so a couple like life-saving things that I've heard from clients lately that, we've been incorporating into our life again. I have a client that her spouse is a teacher. So she, life gets busy. Going back to ordering meals right to their front door. That's definitely an option. I've had several clients that do that. It's definitely not on the super cheap side of things, let's be real. But if you have the cash flow to afford that, and you're like, okay, I actually just saw a tweet the other day, or an X, or I don't know, whatever they call it now, of a friend that went to Wendy's and bought three, not four, 3 meals. And I did see a little Frosty in the corner, okay? But 3 meals and a little Frosty. And it was like 40 some bucks. So you can't tell me that the drive-thru is super cheap anymore. We don't hit the drive-thru very often, so I don't really know. And I'm not saying that like to brag. Fast food just isn't worth it for me because I get sick, right? Every time we get fast food, I'm like, oh, that tasted good, but it so wasn't worth it. Okay, so with those prices, you might want to look into these meal prep options, whether it be the ones that are already like full out prepped and in like little to-go containers, or the ones that they send you. I think it's like HelloFresh, right? They send you all the ingredients. They're pre-measured out. All you got to do is like throw it in the pan, all right? Those are options. Or food prep. We've actually gotten back to that here. I've been making egg cups for the week. So that way, Mike and I just have like these little egg muffin things that we grab, throw in the microwave, and off we go for the day. Breakfast is done, and it's easy peasy. In the past, I was like the queen of food prepping because this was back in the day when I did bikini competitions, and I had to eat right, and I had to eat on scheduled times, and all my food was in Tupperware. So food prep can totally save you. Is it ideal? Is it really convenient? No. That means essentially you're eating a lot of leftovers. Suck it up. It's fine. And 2, it does take a chunk of time, but in the end, it does totally save you time. You're not having to prep the ingredients, you're not having to cook the food, and you're not having to clean it up multiple times a week. It's once. And then you toss it in a Tupperware, you toss it on a plate, and you throw it in the microwave or in the air fryer or in the oven to warm it up. Okay? All right. Next thing. So we talked about nutrition. Flip it. The other half of that, right? Or the other portion of that, rather. Getting in your workouts. Staying active. And yes, before I even hear it, right? I have heard it a million times. Oh, Coach Jenna, it's so hard to get my workouts in now because the weather is changing and I really like to go get my exercise by moving outside. Okay, yep, I hear you. Me too. I love going on walks. And it sucks when the weather swaps and I can't get my walk outside anymore. Because I love that. That's with my family. It's chit-chat. And now if I want to get movement, typically now that means it's on me. And I don't necessarily get to have the chit-chat with my family and, watch my kind of run around like a maniac. But we live here, wherever you live. If it's cold, if we have a season swap, you chose to live there. We got to deal with it, right? So for me, that means, okay, that means either, an extra yoga, couple moves, or hitting the treadmill a little bit if I want that extra movement. So one thing that, I've seen families do, I have a client that's actually contemplating this right now, but get a membership at a local gym or a local community center that also allows your family to be there. So, and I'm not necessarily just talking about childcare. There's definitely those options, for sure. But there's some spaces now that are more like community centers that you can bring your kids and you guys can go play basketball. You can play racquetball. You can play pickleball. You can play, you can go swimming. You can hit the track. And you can still do it as a family. And depending on what community you're in, they're very cost effective. Okay? So there's plenty of indoor spaces that you can join, and even with the family. You can try to get your activity in while your kid is mid-activity themselves. Whether it be maybe your kid's in sports and you go walk the track outside around their sports practice. Or, I'm trying to think. Or your kid is in dance class and there's a gym next door and you're like, okay, you go do dance. Mom is going to hit the gym for half an hour and I'll be back to pick you up. For me, I won't lie, a lot of my workout time is typically when I get up early, I get my workout in, McKenna is still sleeping. But if McKenna is not sleeping, I either A, hook her up with a little kid's workout that she's engaged by, which I won't even lie, I wish she actually did the exercises more. Typically that means McKenna's watching this gal do the exercises, but they're educational, so I feel less guilty because they're doing the alphabet or they're doing numbers or whatever, right? Or I give her, crayons or something to keep her busy. But just because they're awake doesn't mean you get to slack. Again, that's where that schedule tweak and push and play that we're talking about, right? Like you either wake up early, you stay up a little bit later. Those windows can be key for staying active. Utilize that time. Like I said, that's typically what I do. And right now, with the season swap, okay, yeah, I hear you that, it's cold. I won't be able to go outside anymore. That sucks. Okay, yeah. But you know what then? Utilize this time, the season swap, to be a nice trigger to kind of swap out your workout routines anyway. We need that for multiple reasons. Number one, so that our bodies don't become too adapt and they switch and change with this new swap that you throw at it. But in addition, I just had a second point and it totally just went out of my brain. If it comes back, I'll loop back to it. But yeah, anyway. Seasons, see, that's what happens when you kind of just go by the cuff, right? But yeah, in addition, it's just great to have that, nice swap. Oh, boredom. Duh, that was the second thing. Because of boredom. If we're doing the same thing all the flipping time, that gets boring. Not only for our bodies, but for our mind. So use this time to kind of trigger, I'm going to try something new. All right. So we talked a little bit about the nutrition, the exercise, mind, and spirit. This is just as important to take care of because health truly does come from the inside. So even though your schedule is busy, and even though you may have had to cut one of your Bible study routine pieces out of your schedule as you were going through and making those cuts, right? You still need to find time for Jesus. My mentor told me a couple weeks back, you need to make sure you're finding your J and J time. And I looked at her and I was like, what is she talking about? You need to have that Jenna and Jesus time. And she goes, and Mike needs to have that M and J time. And you, my friend, need to have whatever letter your name starts with in J time. Okay? We deserve more than ever right now, right? During the season swap, that self-care time of all self-care. But Jesus, he deserves that time because he is what brings us peace. He is that peace within. So as we are going through hectic times, friend, you need peace. And that comes from our Lord. So he deserves time more than you deserve to hit the snooze button a few extra times or sit down and watch Dancing with the Stars brand new season, or being that first parent in the drop-off line at school. Yeah, all that stuff is quote-unquote important, but your Jesus time is the most important. The second thing, so I'm talking, mind and spirit here. I get this season swap is hard. I will be very transparent. I think this is actually mentally, so far at least, been the most difficult season swap for me. Not like going back to routines or anything like that. I am dreading the cold coming. I don't like winter, period. Never have. I hate being cold. But this year, I really enjoyed the summer. And I think it was because it was so hot. Most people up here like, oh, it was too hot. And I'm like, no, bring it on. It was so hot. It was beautiful. I loved it. And as we're triggering this weather change, I'm like, oh my goodness, I do not want cold. I am so sad. But make sure then that you start doing what you need to do to take care of your mental health. If that means you have to go join an indoor club because you know it's going to help you, or you need to dig out your happy light, which, yes, that's a real thing. I just had a conversation with a gentleman from Florida the other day, and he was like, that's a real thing. I was like, oh, dude, that is so a real thing. Okay? Or maybe if you don't have a happy light, you find, I think some spas are now bringing those in and offering those to clients. Find, maybe you need a salt room, or you need a red UV location that you go to. Whatever it is, right? You need to find those pieces that are going to bring you peace, in addition to Jesus, with this season swap. All right, maybe, right? Fun one. Maybe even plan a vacation midwinter. Get yourself out of here. Get some actual vitamin D. The next one. Again, and I'm hitting on this over and over, and I won't even lie, this is partially for me too, just to keep reminding myself, get your ass up early, okay? But again, that early morning or later in the evening, when you have a moment by yourself or just with your spouse, those are the moments, these are the types of things you can fit in there. Because yes, I get it. I'm going to normalize it again. Right now is a busy time of year. But that doesn't mean you get to slide and not give yourself the care you deserve. All right, moving into the next piece here. Give yourself some white space. We already talked about the schedule a little bit. You may have even already cut some things out of it. So what the hell am I talking about with give yourself white space? Whether you actually do it on a physical calendar or a calendar on your phone, but looking at a calendar, you ideally want to see white or blank space. We cannot, oh my goodness, and I'm preaching to myself at this moment. We cannot schedule ourselves 7 days a week, back to back to back to back to back, constantly. We need to be able to give ourselves some blank chunks. And honestly, I don't care what you do with it. But if you are back-to-back scheduled 7 days a week, you're going to go batty. And how do I know? Because I go batty. Because I am the type of person that I have no issue scheduling myself 7 days a week, back to back to back to back to back. And then all of a sudden, I start getting burnt out. My kids start getting burnt out. My husband starts getting burnt out. And you need to find those white chunks. I am being so mentally focused on this lately because, I mean, if you follow me, you know, like, okay, yes, we're in that same routine you are. Back to school, back to clubs, back to sports, back to activities, all that, right? In addition, we just launched a nonprofit. So our schedule right now is not so. But I'm being very intentional about, okay, when is the white space going to be? For example, today, you know, as I'm recording this episode, I'm intentionally giving myself white space between the gym and having to bring my older one to work. And like I said, I don't care what you do at that time. I don't. Maybe it is just you sitting down and catching up on the Dancing with the Stars episodes when that hits the network. We're not TV people, I won't even lie. We watch old school reruns of old comedies at bedtime, and that's pretty much all we watch for TV. But maybe it's watching your favorite show, or maybe it's grabbing a cup of coffee by yourself in silence, or maybe with a girlfriend. Maybe it's intentional time with a family member, or with the whole family. Like, for example, my white space today, intentional white space, I'm going to bring McKenna to get herself her little reward for earning her 100 reward dollars this week. And then I'm going to do, she calls it mommy and me time, because we did it one time and she's been asking for it. And I have neglected it the last few weeks. So today we're going to do mommy and me time, where I paint her nails and we sit on the couch and we put cucumbers on her eyes. There's nothing even on these cucumbers. We don't have face masks on. We just sit there and we put cucumbers on her eyes. And last time we just laid there and we talked. And then all of a sudden I heard crunch, crunch, crunch because she was eating her cucumbers. But either way, it was perfect. And that's the time we're going to try to do today, because she's been asking for it. And I know life has been crazy and we both need to slow down a little bit. Okay? So just to kind of recap, right? You need to look at your schedule. You need to figure out how you can overcome that overload. You need to make sure you're balancing your nutrition, staying active, and not like I'm running to and fro. You're getting intentional movement. Make sure you're watching that mind and spirit just as much as you're watching your physical self as well, right? Getting that movement in, but then you're also watching the mind and the spirit. And then you're carving out white space intentionally. You guys, when we do not do this stuff, we become not our best selves. And what I've learned, and I saw this in a reel recently, and this is something actually my counselor used to talk about, but when we are not our best selves, we all of a sudden are carrying these rocks of crap. Stress, depression, frustrated, pissed off, overloaded. And being a parent, quite often, that rock is handed over to our kids or our spouse. Not necessarily full out because you are still frustrated, but because you are frustrated, you are sharing that rock stress with your family. And especially for our kids, and yes, our spouse too. But being a mom, my heart goes to the kids. They do not deserve to have it taken out on them, because our schedule is something that we are struggling to manage. We need to prioritize ourselves. And honestly, let me be real. Like, as you're sitting there in your pity party, and I'm saying this to myself as well, as we're sitting here in our pity party, grow up. Grow up. This is life. This happens. It's our job to manage. Cut the crap that you don't need, right? Give yourself a little more space. This stuff is not easy. It's not. It's a hard season. Probably in life, right? Parenting. But in addition, it's a hard season in the year because we are transitioning. It is harder. But this is not a topic. Taking care of you is not a topic that'll come at the quote-unquote right time. The right time is always. We always need to be taking care of ourselves. But you can do it. I swear to you, you can do it. Trust me. I have seen clients by the hundreds make this happen. And so can you. So, that's a wrap today. That's all I got. Short and simple. Hopefully you listen to this at 2 times speed. And I was done in under, like half an hour-ish. That's pretty quick. But remember, as the leaves are falling and the days are busy, do not let your well-being be the tumble-down factor. Stay committed to you. Because a healthy, happy parent means a better season for everyone in the house. Until next time, keep sipping on that pumpkin spice and rocking your fall schedules. Stay well, stay sane, keep yourself wrapped up in that armor of God every single day, and stay tuned for more episodes coming your way soon. If you have found this podcast helpful and want to dive deeper into personal growth and self-improvement, be sure to head over to my website, jennadix.com. You'll find a wealth of resources there. There is a little less drugs, sex, and rock and roll these days, but whether you're interested in getting healthy, information on momming or parenting, or politics, jennadix.com has something for everyone. So, what are you waiting for? Head to jennadix.com today and start your journey towards personal growth and self-awareness. See you there. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Remember, if you are battling an addiction, reach out for help and support. There are many resources available to assist in your journey towards recovery. Surround yourself with a supportive community and never give up on the path towards a healthier and happier life. I appreciate you taking the time to listen and joining me on this journey. As you heard, I'm always rambling. But seriously, thank you for your support and make sure to subscribe and follow my channel. I can't wait to share more with you on the next episode. Until then, keep on rambling.